So by the way, I don't know if you noticed, but we have the neon sign working again.
Yeah, Mikko. Did you fix it or who fixed it?
No, Ingi Björk fixed it.
Yeah.
So what happened was, I thought the fuse box had gone out of business again and kind of blown. And then the day after, we had recorded a whole episode with a guest where it didn't work out. And then the day after, she was like, yeah, it was really easy. I just pressed 2 buttons on the remote and reset it, and now it's working again.
No, she probably just replaced the batteries in the remote. You know,
No, I did that
You're
already.
such a millennial. It's impossible.
I did that. I also hit it a bit, but it didn't work out.
Yeah.
But it's back at the table with a guest again.
We have a wonderful guest here today again.
And it's, what was it, 3rd attempt, I think, to get you on. We had
That was a charm.
we had a lot of technical issues. Fortunately, you were gracious enough to still give it a go. So 3rd time became the charm, I guess. Welcome, Sowmya. So great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Mikhail, and thank you, Tony, for having me. I'm so glad we could make this work.
Yes, very much looking forward to this.
And today we're going to talk a bit about revenue operations, which is fortunate because you have a title of VP RevOps at HubSpot today.
Yes.
And you've also worked at Informatica before, also in the revenue operations area, I believe.
So I was in the customer strategy and operations at Informatica. So revenue operations, as you know, is new in the marketplace, I would say last couple of years. So at Informatica, I was sitting in the business, reporting into the CCO, but a similar role. And at HubSpot, I'm part of the RevOps organization.
And just maybe to clarify this real quick, in HubSpot, you specifically also focus on the CS side of the business. Is that how you structure this, or just kind of maybe give some background for everyone else listening?
Yeah, absolutely. So at HubSpot, I'm part of the revenue operations organization. My expertise is still post-sales. So I do have an operations leader within sales and marketing, and also an enterprise planning and analytics leader who's part of the RevOps organization that we work with. Mm-hmm. Whereas at my prior role, I was part of the business siloed, still in many organizations as it exists today.
Yeah, very interesting. And I'm guessing also HubSpot, I don't actually know so much about Informatica, but I'm guessing HubSpot is slightly bigger than Informatica. So I guess that explains some of the additional structure being built around. Yes, Sowmya, wonderful to have you here today. And maybe Mikko, let's dive into this.
Yeah, so first we really just actually want to hear what your revenue operations journey looked like. How did you all of a sudden, fall into this this category of work?
Yeah. I will give a little bit background about my career trajectory, and that will explain, how I ended up at HubSpot with revenue operations. So I started off with Informatica in a customer-facing role. I started off as a support engineer, so really handling customer tickets, working very closely with the product organization. And early part of my career, I did a variety of roles such as account management, escalation management, support account management, etc. There was a project that we undertook, which was moving our CRM from Siebel, for those who remember Siebel, Siebel to Salesforce. And I was a North America lead, who helped to lead that initiative. I think when I was working in that project, it gave me, as we did the capability assessments, understanding what a customer wants, and why is it that we have all these features and processes, it gave me a big view into the why, and also help me understand how business translates into a day-to-day work that a support engineer does. Because at the end of the day, when you think about your role, you're talking to a customer, you have to meet an SLA, you need to resolve something that seems very tactical and myopic. But then when you really understand, okay, here is how it impacts the big picture, I think it comes together. I would say that kind of piqued my interest in operations. I really wanted to understand the why and make it consumable for the folks on, as part of their day-to-day. Luckily, or unfortunately, Informatica did end up going private about a year later. And I was part of the acquisition team that worked very closely with the sponsor leadership team as well as Informatica's leadership team. So I would say that was the start of my operations journey. I started off managing the support side of the house and then slowly expanded to customer success, renewals, both maintenance as well as subscription. And when I left Informatica, I had a large organization managing all of the post-sales operations, enablement, analytics. So these were all part of the journey. So why did I move? I definitely had a really good growth, but then I think I was missing being part of the organization where I truly could influence and see, top of the funnel all the way to, how it, culminates into a retention or an expansion. I was definitely responsible for the post sales, but then there was very little that I could do or very little insight that I had about, is this a qualified lead? The sales closing all of the leads that we are generating on time. So those are all parts of the missing puzzle for me. And lo and behold, there was this opportunity at HubSpot. And another big thing that I wanted to learn was I came from an enterprise software background, and HubSpot was more of SMB. So there could be a customer who's paying $100 per month, but wanting to be treated as $1 million customer. So that definitely was a very interesting problem for me to solve. And that kind of brought me to HubSpot. So again, I've been here a year, very much enjoying being part of the broader organization, understanding all of the, I will say, pieces together, and applying it to the post sales to make the customer experience more meaningful. And delivering growth. Yeah.
So, I mean, at Informatica, you literally had the word strategy in your title, right? And now at RevOps, I mean, obviously when you have, now at HubSpot, obviously kind of as a VP there, right? There's surely some strategic items to it. Could you explain a little bit? Maybe there's a bridge between those two topics, between Informatica and HubSpot, where you say like, hey, those were strategic items I was carrying there, and I'm actually also now involved in and or carrying here, because it's really helpful for everyone here to get a better feel for, what does that actually mean, strategy, right? And then it seems like you can put quite some words to that actually. So would love to have you.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, I hear you. When we think operations, we think efficiency. And when we hear strategy, we think growth. So that is how, at least in my mind, I translate those two. And I do remember fighting for having strategy as part of my title because I felt it was really important. So as much as we say revenue operations, I think the very fact that it is revenue operations implies that the role that the organization plays is strategic. I think we are not responsible for driving revenue, as in, we don't sit in part of the business, but we are responsible for all of the tools, the processes, identifying opportunities, planning, target setting, comp and incentive design to make sure that we are fueling, the growth for the organization. And thereby, for me, revenue operations is very strategic. It is not just about, identifying some incremental opportunities or making something better. It is also identifying opportunities that probably no one ever knew existed. And I think that is what gives me a sense of satisfaction being part of the organization. And I feel that is what makes the entire RevOps more of a strategic thought partner, as opposed to an organization that is here to make your life easier and make you a bit more efficient on a day-to-day basis.
And I mean, HubSpot is a public company, so maybe we need to watch out with some of these things. But do you have maybe one or two examples? So because you mentioned the incremental improvement stuff, which I think a lot of people just, brush aside and like, yeah, cool. But over time, this is like real money there, both on the growth and the on the cost side, right? And then you mentioned you uncovered a couple of opportunities that otherwise maybe would have gone unnoticed, right? Can you share one or two stories of those things that that would help us, paint the picture of being strategic a bit better?
Yeah, absolutely. I would actually talk about a couple of initiatives from Informatica, more than HubSpot, and I will probably say that a lot of it applies to the work that we're doing here at HubSpot as well. So I was telling you about how Informatica was a public entity, and then we were acquired and we went private. So Informatica was on a journey of going from a perpetual organization to a subscription, and now most recently it is a consumption-based organization. So every single time there was a new product change that happened, or there was a new go-to-market that was needed, what we would do is look at what kind of offerings does the customer need. A maintenance-based support SLA could be very different than a subscription customer who expects, vendors to be liable for, outage or a penalty cost, right? So every single time there was a product change or a go-to-market change, we had to constantly tweak our offerings. So by the time we completed our pivot to subscription, there were 14 different support offerings that we had. Given that most of the company's growth comes from especially established public large sales companies, their growth comes from existing customer base. So the same customer could have invested $1 million in maintenance, and as in like perpetual on-premise products, and might have like, let's say, a 20K footprint on subscription. And you might say, hey, you really did not invest in subscription. You're not entitled to, let us say, an SLA. You're not entitled to a CSM. Whereas on the maintenance or the perpetual side of the house, you are a huge customer, and we are going to give you our topmost tier of service. So the customer experience is completely, fragmented. And then that leads to probably the customer slowly churning or moving towards an organization that offers them a holistic solution. So long story short, this was one of the projects that, part of the operations organization that we identified that we had to solve. We codenamed the project Project Tetris. For those of you who have played Tetris, it is about filling the gaps and growing. So that was the intent behind the project code name. And what we did was look at our go-to-market when it came to offerings holistically and identify what are all the needs that a customer has, not just to what is the footprint that they have today, what they could grow into. And then second thing is, how do we, think about the salesperson who has to attach services to a sale. Do they attach what the customer had, where they had the maximum footprint, or are they going to be giving the customer what they are buying for? Again, like the sales process was also completely complicated, and not to mention the delivery, because the customer is going to say, I have invested $1.2 million in Informatica, give me your highest tier. I don't care if I did not pay enough for subscription. So definitely there was a need. We identified the need in terms of simplification for Informatica from a go-to-market standpoint, for sales to make sure that it is a compelling pitch, and for the customer, because we want to make sure the customer, irrespective of the product or the footprint that they have the same experience across all of their interactions with Informatica. So this was a huge undertaking. The number of combinations that we had was 540, believe it or not, between products and services and offerings. So to simplify it, we came up with like one paid offering that would apply to all of the customers. So this was actually one of the, I would say, career highlights for me in terms of a project that I conceived. My team, put together, and we had to mobilize an entire organization around this go-to-market. So definitely there is a strategy involved, because, it was a complete company-wide initiative. It simplified the customer experience. It made the go-to-market very simple, and it made our offering very compelling, because irrespective of the product footprint, you had something that you wanted that Informatica had as part of their service offering. That is one example that I would say where, I feel like revenue operations or operations become strategic.
I love this. So internally we call our roadmap Project Tetris as well. So that's a funny one. And then I was actually, so I don't think there's any doubt that this was a strategic initiative on your part. I think it's also one of the first real examples that we've been listening to that really mirrors this claim of RevOps to the customer journey end to end, right? Because this is really what that is. It's not just we need to add a field and Salesforce. This is, much broader and deeper integrated to this. And this was actually kind of where my next question was coming from. You mentioned that you have been a CS frontline individual contributor and or manager previously to that. Do you think that this puts you into a much stronger position to leverage that into this operations/strategy and maybe new word revenue operations position to kind of really be super close to the customer, totally get it, and then, translate that back to things internally?
That definitely was an advantage for me, Tony. I wouldn't lie. So because I was an account manager, I was also an escalation manager, and I really had customers screaming at me, wanting a better experience or not having the right experience that they thought they deserved. So definitely, I feel like I had an advantage there. But it doesn't mean that unless you have the customer background or the support background, you cannot identify an opportunity. I feel like it is all about looking at the current status and not getting stuck on status quo. You could keep on adding, but at some point you are making your footprint so complex that the incremental benefits that you think you're generating are actually not really yielding what it is. Like as part of this project, another thing that I did not really talk about was the simplified go-to-market offering made it easier for our sales organization to attach more services because all they had to talk about was one offer. It is really as simple as that. So that made our service subscription, it was still subscription because it was recurring, attached so high that, year one, you are investing in the customer, and year two onwards, it goes to your bottom line. So there was also this incremental recurring revenue benefit that we yielded. So all that I would say is your knowledge about the revenue side of the things. But to your question, having that customer background was definitely an advantage for me because I knew and I had heard firsthand, what customers wanted. But as part of this program, we did go on a customer interview as well.
I think, and this is my last question before I'm going to hand it over to Mikkel again. So when I talk to RevOps folks or RevOps leaders, there really is this, it's almost like a 50-50 split. You either come from a consulting or like a finance background. And so let's just call it an analytical background and go to revenue operations. And then the other side is coming from a commercial background, right? Your SDRs, your AEs, your SDR leaders, your CS leaders. That go into this RevOps direction. Is there anything, and this is now maybe more in your capacity as a leader at HubSpot, is there, do you have any preferences actually between those two? Is it like, hey, the analytical guys, they're better on those numbers things, but really the commercial folks, they kind of really know what this is all about and they kind of drive more for revenue. Did you pick up on any, I don't want to say you make specific hiring decisions based on this, but have you encountered some preferences in yourself with saying like, hey, I actually really like this profile more for this role versus the other one?
Yeah, my team is going to hate me for this answer for sure. I would actually say that having a little bit of the business background is definitely helpful.
Yeah.
Analytics are absolutely important. I think having that quantitative mind is going to be key because, it tells you the outcome that you can and the impact that you can have. But I feel you will be more effective if you have that business expertise. And I really encourage my team in all of our conversations to definitely understand the why. Even if you're not part of the business organization, truly make sure, like if someone comes to you with an ask them why, ask them what is the thinking behind that. And then don't just deliver what they are asking for. See if there is something bigger that that you can uncover and what you bring to the table. Basically, I mean, to make it simpler, like always look for opportunities of value creation. So definitely having a business background is going to be helpful, but does not mean that if you come from an analyst or a consulting background, or you cannot do the job effectively. I wouldn't say that, but this one gives you an advantage for sure.
But so we had a guest recently, Chris Walker, CEO at Refine Labs, and he said, it's really difficult to weigh in on the go-to-market strategy when you don't have the experience, right? Things get a little bit harder. Also, sometimes if I'm gonna give advice to a marketing person, there's instant credibility. Versus if I try and provide some best practices to a salesperson, they're gonna go like, yeah, go back and pick some colors and fonts, right? So there's also some dynamic there. How do you work through that with your team? Because it's not always going to be the case that you have a hire that actually comes with that background and experience.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is something that you need to work through. Again, like I would say, I earned my credibility within the organization because I had played that role before, and I understood the puts and takes. And hence the recommendations that I made came from, yes, she has done this, she understands, she was part of this organization, advantage. But again, like, I feel like at the end of the day, your stakeholders want you to solve the problem, deliver the outcome that they're asking. And if you're able to go above and beyond and deliver something that they did not ask, I feel like credibility and trust can be earned. Maybe it is not as easily earned as, if you come from that background. But I mean, I feel like if you have the right aptitude and the attitude, I feel like you can pick up the skills. I don't think it should be hard, but you have to be intentional about it.
And maybe this is the same question, just asked from a different angle. But if someone on your team would come to you and be like, "Hey, Sowmya, how can I want to be more strategic?" If someone asks you this question, and it might not be from your team, maybe it's from somewhere else in HubSpot. How do you answer this? How do you help them and be like, well, those the 3 things you need to think about, or those the 5 things you need to do? What's the perfect blog post or LinkedIn post to answer that question? I mean, how do you approach this conversation, and what advice would you give?
Yeah. I don't think everyone needs to be strategic. I would probably, you don't need everyone in the team driving strategy. There has to be 1 or 2. You will have a real problem if everyone wants to do strategy. Yeah. I don't think you can teach strategy. I feel like that's a skill that you develop based on expertise and experience. What I would tell my team, for those who do not want to be just ops partners, who really want to have a bigger impact, is, again, like I would say, understand what is needed, understand the context and the big picture behind the ask. Because an example that I would say is a stakeholder might come and say, I want to revamp all of the cancellation reasons because I am not able to understand like the churn analysis, and I want to be able to better action some churn metrics. You could go about this exercise as like, taking stock of all of the cancellation reasons that you have, and then trying to probably create groups, make some pick list changes. Or you could this could become a strategic project where you say, okay, I want to understand, is it a customer behavior related churn, or is it a product experience related churn? And so if you think about it that way, then it becomes a much bigger project than a tactical ask of revamp cancellation reasons. So I would tell my team, again, like, understand the ask, understand the why behind the ask, and always look to add something more to the ask. Bring your perspective. It could be right or wrong, but do not hold back, your inputs and your point of view. I feel like that is something that first it could be you could feel like maybe I don't have enough experience, what will they think of me? So remove all those thoughts, be very intentional, ask all the questions. The only stupid one is the one that you did not ask. So again, that is what I would tell my team. And I will also say, I don't want everybody in my team doing strategy. But I think that they should all understand like the why behind anything that they work on.
It's like building a 5-person team with 5 Scrum Masters. They're all Scrum Masters. It's like nothing actually gets done.
No, of course. I think the reason why we're kind of touching on this question so much and so often is, I think the reverse is very, very often though the case, right? You have a lot of RevOps folks super focused on their systems. Is it Salesforce? Is it HubSpot? Is it less so Siebel? Those kind of questions come up, and then how should we implement this and what should we do next? And it's usually focused on these what things, and not only to your question the why, right? Because the reason why someone wants to revamp the cancellation reasons is you want to make it actionable. You want to figure out what to fix. You want to improve it. You want to, push up this GRR number. You want to get some real revenue out of this thing. That's the reason behind it, not an academic, what is the best way to do it, and then change the pick list a little bit, right? And I think this is, for people listening, this is the click that we want them to experience, right? So, but you're totally right. On a team of 5 or 10 or 20 or 30, I'm not sure how big your team is. You don't want everyone to be a strategic kind of person. You need a lot of people that do stuff also, right? And by the way, this is the other funny thing. I think a lot of times when someone is labeled strategic, it either is a leader or is like a, what are you actually doing here, right? There's sometimes this balance about this.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. So the way in which the teams are organized, also there's an R&R that is in place. So again, I think it comes a little bit down. A little bit to org structure and the structure in which you operate and the roles and responsibilities that you have established within the team. And again, I think everyone should have a little bit of strategy. You should do it. Does not mean that don't think, just do. But I feel like you captured it, right? You have to understand the why and you have to deliver the what.
So, one reflection I had is let's say you're meeting up with someone in your network for a coffee, right? And they're in a position where they are this kind of order taker, and they're doing a great job at just delivering the tasks and also trying to deliver the understanding the why behind it and deliver that. But it's kind of a vicious cycles. Quite frequently when you do tools, you need to go out and procure it, then implement it, train people, process data. And then once you're done, 6-12 months later, there's a new tool, right? So if someone is stuck in kind of that pattern and they know they can go and make a bigger impact, what would actually be your advice for some simple steps they could take to start transitioning and actually having an impact beyond just tools?
So I do have a systems and automation team that is part of my organization. Similarly, the sales operations organization also has a systems and automation team, and so on. But there is also the centralized, RevOps systems and data organization who actually are responsible for the stack, the integrations, and the intent behind any tool that you would procure. So in my team, again, we have the autonomy and we are empowered to look at the CS tech stack. We are empowered to make decisions on any new tools that we want to bring to the table, because in fact, my call before this was talking about a solution where they had a solution for an upsell and cross-sell initiative. So my push to them was, again, it definitely solves the problem that I have and the mandate that I have been given for next year going into 2024, grow ID. But I feel like growing ID is CS and sales together. So my, recommendation to the person that I spoke to was also take the feedback from the sales ops leader and also, talk to the go-to-market data leader, because I feel like all of this would come together. So for my team who are responsible for the tools and the implementations and the asks, it really depends on what the ask is. If it is, hey, so we use Workado for alerts and insights delivery to the reps. One of the things that we constantly hear is I'm being bombarded by so many alerts. Like, what do I prioritize? What should I be looking at? So the solution for that is something that lives within the CS purview, and my team can go at it and solve it on their own. The other issue that we hear is forecasting is not optimal. We need a better forecasting solution. Now, if this is a problem that my team is being asked to work on, I would actually say, let's look at the forecasting solution that we have at HubSpot and have a holistic point of view, because you want an entire view of the business, not just CS or renewal forecasting to be solved. So I think it really depends on the ask, and I would definitely push my team to truly see, is it impacting just this organization? If so, go and make it better, because at the end of the day, we exist to make it better for the business. But if we think this is part of a bigger picture, then go to the centralized team and think of a solution for the organization, with your point of view on here is why this doesn't work for CS, and here is why this solution is a bigger and a better solution for HubSpot. Yeah. So that would be my guidance to the team.
Let's maybe switch gears just a little bit. So if you could go back in time, I feel it's a typical podcast question.
It's like an interview, actually.
What stocks would you buy?
Yeah. If you could go back in time and talk to your younger self, yeah, what advice would you give yourself? And obviously in connection to revenue operations in this case.
Yeah, that could have been a lot of.
Yeah. I would say be curious.
There you go.
So definitely, I feel like you have to have a curious and an inquisitive mind for you to be able to put on the learning hat and look at the opportunities for learning. I would also probably, now that I'm here and I know what I did not do, I would actually say that try things. Like, don't be stuck. Sometimes we do not ask for what we want. Maybe I have been put in a part of an organization. Yes, I'm doing a stellar job, but does not mean, I cannot do another job. I feel like early part of my career, I probably didn't experiment enough. So I would tell my younger self to probably be open and be willing and be courageous to take some chances. So, I mean, I am here, I'm very fine where I am, but maybe I could have gotten here much faster if I had done a little bit of tweaks in the early part of my career. So those are the two things that I would tell my younger self and any aspiring, revenue operations folks. I definitely experiment, don't just stick to CS. If you feel like you have learned enough CS, go and learn sales, go and learn marketing ops. Today, my expertise is CS. But even now, I crave for, being part of sales operations and really mobilizing net new growth for the company. Again, I have an opportunity here to influence it, but I would have liked to be an expert, very similar to how I'm an expert today at customer success. So that would be my advice to,
So this is a funny question. So you've been working on the CS side. Would you have liked to also be a full-on salesperson? I think you mentioned you've been doing account management, which sometimes is kind of a similar bucket, right? But would you have liked to be a full-on salesperson once?
I think so. I would also say that in my role at Informatica, I did try a few things once I established myself. I did have a quota carrying role. we had a small win-back team that I managed, who are responsible for going and talking to a customer who churned, 90 days after the churn, to really understand, because many a times, like, every vendor is going to promise you something and you churn in promise of something better, but maybe your experience didn't really pan out. Maybe you ran into a bunch of integration issues, who knows, right? So this team was definitely responsible for win back. I did have a quota carrying role. The main reason why I love recurring revenue is, like, I love quarter end, the adrenaline rush. You're going to meet your number. Are you going to exceed your number? The marketplace is very different right now. It's all about meeting number right now. But, definitely, I don't know. I think I would have liked it. And I might also be a little bit, don't mean to sound bragging. I think I would have been good at it if I had worked. If I had worked on it.
I think you would have been fantastic at this as well. I mean, I think this is actually kind of, and maybe this was, my last kind of go around is, I think so many RevOps folks are so afraid of actually talking to the customer, especially in a sales role. So maybe sure renewal, but win back, no. And I think it's so valuable. It's so valuable to kind of have that reality check and, chat with those people and, once in a while get slapped in the face, because that's what's going to definitely happen. And I think that drives so much value, not only for your revenue operations career, but probably in general as well.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot agree more. You need to have a thick skin. And I think in operations, you have a thick skin.
So that's one other thing, have a thick skin. We need to kind of...
There you go, yeah.
So I was hoping maybe we can squeeze in just one more question, because I wanted to follow up on this advice you're going to send back in time to yourself, right? You've also done a couple of things right, obviously, to get to the point in time where you are today. I'm just curious, like, what do you see as some of the tenets that brought you here that maybe others can also learn from?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have, I think I would say one of the biggest strengths that I have is I have a growth mindset. I don't look at failures and it doesn't as, setbacks or roadblocks. I definitely look at failures as an opportunity to learn from. It's very hard in the moment when it happens, but definitely I would say one of my biggest strengths is the ability to reflect back and learn something from the successes, and as much or probably even more from the failures. I think that has served me well in my career, because I made sure I never repeated that thing again. And where it was a knowledge gap, I made sure that I learned that, like, it would never be a gap when it comes to executing another big project. So that definitely, I would say, served me well, continues to do so. And as much as I feel like I didn't take enough chances, I also took the chances. Like, when this particular project that I was telling you about, I had never done project management before. I didn't know what a CRM was. All I knew was I wanted something different, and I wanted to, really understand the company's objectives and what it really meant to me as a support engineer. Because at some point of time, I felt like, why am I being asked to deliver a 15-minute SLA? Like, in the moment, it really does not make sense. But when you really understand, like, customers on cloud, it is a 24/7 operation, then it all comes together. So I feel like, being willing, to take chances and even if you knew or didn't know what you were getting into, it served me well as well. So again, like a little bit of curiosity and learning.
I think this is the taking chances bit. So I can also, when I look back at my career, I think that's certainly a trick to also jump into revenue operations, right? Because there will be this moment in time you have some role somewhere, and for some reason, either you yourself or someone is approaching you and it's like, hey, we have this problem over there. Do you care to maybe jump on this and fix it? And the answer needs to be yes, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And thinking about, what did I do? That can wait. That can wait until afterwards. But taking the opportunity and taking this chance and jumping on sometimes also it's those projects that no one else wants, you know, and you know, jumping on those and nailing those, obviously, I think that can be a fantastic way to progress in the right direction.
Cannot agree more. Yeah, we are the fixers and identify what can be fixed.
That's right. Sowmya, so awesome to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me. You made it very easy for me to talk to you both. So thank you.
That's what we always aim for.
After the third try.
Yeah.
After the third try.
Sowmya, thanks so much for joining.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.